Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. We're picking up my review of the Icon of the Seas cruise ship. Last I shared, we talked about day one, embarkation day, day two, the sea day. Then I covered a port of call in Roatan, Honduras. I want to start off by talking about day four, our port of call in Costa Maya, Mexico. This is a great example where historically the Mayans, the ancient peoples, they did reside in this part of Mexico. But in more recent history, in terms of naval trade, piracy, Costa Maya was not a deep water port with established infrastructure. And the area around Costa Maya is not as built up as somewhere like Cozumel, Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta. Costa Maya is manufactured for cruise ships. One was already there and two came after us. You can always look up what ships are scheduled to be in your port of call. I find this information extremely practical, especially if we are not going on excursions, because it can allow me to plan when the shops are going to be busier, the pier is going to be busier, when it's going to be harder to get a cab. Some ships will dock early in the morning, like 6 or 7 a.m. Some cruise lines will swap out ships midday. So one ship will leave at 12 or 1 p.m. and another ship will dock at 2 or 3 p.m. It's something to consider if you are really a planner when it comes to cruising. Day four of our cruise. All of us had cruise line excursions. I planned more of an active excursion involving swimming, and my husband and his son planned a shorter excursion to local Mayan ruins. Cruise line excursions, I will just say in a nutshell, you have to expect what they will be, not what they will not be. So you are paying for the safety and security of English-speaking guides, vetted companies with high-quality transportation that have air conditioning with bathroom stops or bathrooms on the buses, water, sometimes Wi-Fi on the buses, food at restaurants, safe in the sense that you're not going to get sick. With traveler's diarrhea, you may have flushable toilets in a country that doesn't have flushable toilets. It's very safe in what I mean an accessible way if you're new to international travel. If you have been backpacking in Asia on your own and used a squat toilet and flagged down a cab and haggled prices, you do not need to do cruise line excursions. The main thing with cruise line excursions is that the boat will not leave without you if there's any sort of delay, and also the simplicity of just showing up. I had been to Costa Maya before several times. There's not much to see directly in the port. There's not much to see outside of the port in terms of flagging down a cab and just driving around. You're in a rural area with people selling fruit by the side of the road, shops, carts. It is very much a poor part of Mexico. So it made a lot of sense for us each to book an excursion. Plus, the excursion I wanted to do did involve transportation to something over an hour away. Anytime we're talking about something far from the cruise ship, for example, in Falmouth, Jamaica, there's a distillery almost an hour and a half away. That is not something I would recommend you do yourself with a taxi and risk missing the ship and ruining your cruise. The excursion I did was called Bacalar and Seven Colors Lagoon. I think it was 124 US dollars. Cruise excursions, the cheapest you're ever going to see is 70 US dollars. I've done snorkeling for 80 or 90 US dollars. It wasn't cheap, but it also wasn't expensive in the sense that we spent an hour and 15 minutes driving there in an air-conditioned bus. They took us to an eco resort where we had access to washrooms to change. They gave us bottles of water. We had the option to buy alcoholic drinks. We boarded a pontoon boat. We were on the pontoon boat for 2 to 3 hours. The pontoon boat took us to 3 or 4 different locations with an English-speaking guide. They had watermelon and tequila served on the boat if you were interested. We went by an old fort. We went through a cenote. We had the ability to stop and swim in beautiful blue colored water. Very low lift, casual, but enjoyable excursion. They took us back to the eco resort, and there was a buffet lunch with tables and chairs, hot tortillas, chicken, fried fish, beans and rice, chips and salsa. You could purchase ice cream, alcohol, and then we got back on the bus. It was about a 6-hour tour in total. I was very satisfied because I knew what it was going to be. It's very important you read the details in the description of any cruise line excursion you book. There were a number of people complaining to the tour guide, satisfied. One person thought that the tour should have been longer. This was marked as 6 hours, and we were 6 hours from the time we met on the ship to the time we returned to the port of call. Someone else was complaining they thought we were going to see prettier cenotes, like I guess from Instagram or Pinterest. They were picturing more of a cave scenario. This was beautiful blue water, and it did not mention a specific cenote. It just said the Bacalar Lagoon. We got some history about the lagoon. It's the second largest freshwater lagoon in Mexico. We saw different portions of water. I thought it was really enjoyable, but I got the impression from people who are maybe not cruisers that they expected the best excursion ever that you might pay if you booked through Ader or a private tour guide. I would not go to the trouble of booking this independently. I had seen on some of the cruise boards that people do book a cab privately for $50 or $60 for 4 people. But then where do you go at the lagoon? You would need to rent a pontoon boat. Where do you get the pontoon boat? Or what is the fee for a private boat rental? What parts of the lake do you go to? Where are you allowed to embark or dock the boat? You have to eat. You have to get back to the port. I really felt like this was a good excursion for me to be able to see an area that people had recommended as very scenic, but without having to do any of the planning. I just booked, paid, showed up, and then was able to return to the port around 3 o'clock, walk through, take photos, and get back on the ship. My husband and his son did Mayan ruins. They were only gone for 3.5, 4 hours. They ate something in the port and got back on the ship. We don't tend to do a lot of cruise excursions. Generally, I do them if it involves snorkeling, where there is a bus, a boat, safety briefing, and equipment required. I don't want to have to travel with fins and snorkel in my luggage. There is this rumor going around on the internet that the ship never leaves you behind, and that's just not the case. You will be left behind. I've seen port runners many, many times on cruises, and you can also hear them paging on the PA system. When there's people missing, they will page for them and say, please come to guest services in case there's been some sort of mistake. But they will leave you behind, and that's the fastest way to ruin a vacation. Essentially, day 4 was very much focused on the excursion. I got back on the ship by 3:15 because the port was crowded. It was not very pleasant. I don't like that about these smaller manufactured ports. Day 4, Costa Maya, Mexico. We were very lucky. We had beautiful blue skies after terrible rain on Monday. We also woke up to terrible rain yesterday. I went upstairs to one of the exterior decks and discovered that it was absolutely pouring rain. It just wasn't very visible through the window. They did have to close part of the ship, the aft of the ship, the hideaway, thrill, water park, base camp, some of the public areas, because even with proper drainage, it becomes extremely slippery. They'll lock the automatic doors in certain areas where they don't want people to go and risk getting hurt. Our plan originally for Cozumel, Mexico, I made an itinerary where we were going to get off the ship on our own later in the morning after everybody else rushes off for their excursions, or the young families rush off early and then get back on early. Our plan was to get off around 11, to walk into the port, take a cab to La Choza, which is a very well-known, I say local, but tourists go there, but it's pretty affordable. That is near the Malecon on the water. I was going to go to the beach while my husband and his son went to a bar that had smoking. But with the weather, we ended up kind of switching it up on the fly. We went to buffet breakfast around 10:30. One of the challenges the staff on the ship were having is that a port day schedule is different from a sea day schedule. Breakfast usually runs later on a sea day, but it ends earlier on a port day. But a lot of people were staying on the ship because of the weather. So it really puts extra work on the staff because people are walking into breakfast late. They want breakfast. They don't want lunch. It was pretty crowded in the Windjammer buffet. It was not very pleasant, but I fully understand why that was. That was one of the few times I really felt the size of this ship. We had buffet breakfast, went downstairs to do emails in the music hall. The rain appeared to have stopped, so we got prepared to get off the ship. By that point, it was 12:15, 12:30. We could have definitely got off the ship because gangway up was not till 5:30, but we just weren't feeling it at that point in time. I don't want to not spend money in the local economy, but sometimes when your day is your day, it just makes sense to say, let's do whatever on the ship. We'll be in Cozumel again. We've been in Cozumel before. The ship did a really good job shuffling the schedule for everyone who stayed on the ship and adding activations. So usually on a port day, there's less programming on the ship, fewer movies, games, fitness classes, pop-up activities. But I would say very few people got off the ship yesterday. Walking through the promenade, they brought out, for example, face painting for kids, balloon animals, giant Jenga, and Plinko. And this is in addition to all the normal activities around the ship. Go to Aqua Ocean, the kids camp, ride the carousel, go to the pool, a spray park, or Central Park. All of those items are free to everyone. They added 2 extra kids movies during the day. So they make different areas of the ship with different things going on so people don't go stir crazy. I will say also on this ship, there is pay-per-view movies in your room. There's always a kids channel, teen channel, music channel, multiple news and sports channels. But on this new ship with the bigger TV and the updated software, there was over 40 or 50 Hollywood movies that you could rent. If your kids really needed a day in the room, you could do that. We went down to the promenade to do emails at the English pub. It's very common for people just to sit wherever they want on a cruise ship. You don't have to drink alcohol to sit in the pub. There'll be people there with coffee, doing computer work. It's just a good place. It had booths with larger tables. Then we went to Next Cruise, which is where you go to book your next cruise if you want to do so. The main impetus to book it on the current cruise is because the deposit you have to pay to secure the price for a future cruise is a lot less. We booked a cruise for October 2026 for my husband's milestone birthday. There were some shops they wanted to go into that were open. I went and took a nap. They went upstairs to the covered part of the deck. Later, we met up and went to the buffet for dinner. Last night was Mexican, so the churros, burritos, flan, chimichangas, fajitas, quesadillas, Mexican-themed burger, and a really good hummingbird cake, which I'd never tried. My husband went to have a nap, and I went with his son and played mini golf. We try and do some of these sport or kids activities in the evening when they're less crowded, so we're not in the way of kids. We went and did the mini golf, which is available as a black light option. We then played ping pong. In this ship, it is a little sheltered area, which is really, really nice. So you don't have the ping pong balls flying into the seating areas. We tried to go to the dueling pianos, but it is a smaller venue and it was already filled up with people who had got there early. We went to the jazz bar the other night. That's what it was. I wanted to go to the jazz bar in Central Park. We made sure to get there 20 minutes before the set started. We stayed for the first 45 minutes. and then we relocated somewhere else. I am keeping a running list of things I want to do. So for example, the cruise compass is the old paper activity guide that comes out every day. It is available in the Royal app. You don't need to buy the Wi-Fi package to access the app, where all of the activities are listed. My husband always likes the paper copy. We get it, special request. And then I'm keeping track down here. For example, the things I still want to do. I want to go to the slushy bar, the hideaway bar at the back of the ship. That's when we forget just who we are. Make us come together in an alright. That's when you remember who you are. My husband wants to try this tea drink at the front of the ship under the glass dome. There's a side of the ship with the soft chairs I want to sit in. I went up to see the flow rider. They had teen night, so it was lit up. And so I watched some teens using the flow rider. It wasn't very crowded. Came back downstairs and saw part of the parade on the promenade. Went upstairs for the smoking area briefly. I went over to Ginger in the food market. I think the food was available till 1 a.m., but I wanted to get a snack before I thought it closed at midnight. That was pretty much it. I think I went to bed at 12:30 or 1 last night.